Are you feeling patriotic yet, Darcy?
Heck yeah.
Are you doing your research?
What research?
You know, the research about the real history of America, about how we were settled by Hungarian-speaking aliens who landed here in the 14th century, and they were real estate speculators who lived in caves in Missouri.
I don't think I know about that one.
Don't you watch the History Channel? Don't you know that the Cuban cigar cartel was working for the mafia and they killed Kennedy together?
That's another new one.
You ever be talking to some guy who talks like that? You know, you're talking to some guy, you think he's relatively normal, you know? You say, how about that Tom Brady?
Woo!
And then he suddenly spouts off something about how survivors of Nagasaki have sleeper cells in rural Oregon, and they've trained their children in neo-Nazi militia tactics so they can set up a new world order in Boise and then spread out through the Midwest until they control the Sioux Falls, South Dakota credit card computers that will bring all the big banks to their knees while they engineer a cyber attack designed to hijack 9 of the major cryptocurrency repositories. And so when you hear this, what you should say is, are you schizophrenic or merely psychotic? But that's not what you say. What you do say is maybe, well, that sounds a little too complicated of a conspiracy for anybody to carry it off. And they say, well, do your research. You know, like it's your job or your responsibility as a citizen to be researching gun-toting whack jobs in the Wyoming outback. You know, in fact, do your research is the new mantra when somebody wants to tell you, A, you're stupid, and B, I'm done talking to you, rookie. You know, you don't believe that Hillary Clinton and Jane Fonda send money to a secret lesbian cult that keeps children in cages so they can make fake videos that are used to discredit the Border Patrol? Well, do your research. So my question to all these people who spend so much of their spare time doing research is, where exactly do you go to do this research? I mean, it's so precious to you. I gotta assume you're spending thousands of hours at the Library of Congress or the British Museum or the Beinecke Library at Yale or maybe the Vatican Library. And of course, the New York Public Library reading room where they have all those books that are so rare and delicate they have to bring them to you and turn the pages for you. Or maybe if you're doing research on a military subject like the militias in Oregon, you're spending a lot of airfare traveling to the Pritzker Military Museum and Library in Chicago. Or if it's a scientific subject, maybe the library at the California Institute of Technology in Pasadena. But wherever you're going to do this basic research on subjects previously undiscovered by mankind, I salute your diligence and your scholarship. But of course, we all know what they mean by research, don't we? We know what they mean. They typed a question into a search engine. They Googled that fucker. Now, this is probably obvious to most people who watch this show, but let me point it out for viewers over the age of 105 who have not yet been introduced computers into their lives. The internet, as an instrument of research, is like standing on the infield of Narendra Modi Cricket Stadium in Ahmedabad, India, the largest athletic stadium in the world, and asking a question of all 132,000 spectators and having them all answer you at the same moment. There is no umpire of the internet. There is no bullshit filter on the internet. There is no algorithm creating a pop-up box that says, this result might be written by a moron. So let's take a look at what happens when you look up something on the internet. Can I have my chart, Austin? Oh, yeah. This is my internet chart, you know.
Shouldn't we just mention the movie, the next one?
Yeah, we can do that. You know, I love the concluding movie in the season. It's Nightbreed, and we're gonna deep dive it. You're gonna be inside Clive Barker's brain by the time we finish this movie, and that's a really strange place to be. And helping us out on that journey, as usual, is the tireless Darcy the Mail Girl, woman of mystery, princess of the internet underground, superstar influencer, and deliverer of mail. Darcy, may I continue?
You may continue to talk about Nightbreed.
After I explain this. So here's a chart of the internet. The internet is like one of those crazy people on Hoarders that never throw anything away. All right? The internet, with every passing day, has more and more junk in the closet. And the junk has many forms. All right, over here on this end of the internet, we have access to peer-reviewed academic databases. Scopus, research articles, university journals, Web of Science, 100 million articles from people with PhDs. PubMed, 30 million articles written by doctors and made available through the National Institutes of Health. IEEE Explore, everything you need from the engineering fields. And then we could go on down the list at Eric, Science Direct, smart people writing about specific stuff they have specific information about with strict editing, strict review by their peers, trusted information by scholars. Now, do you know who looks up stuff on these complicated databases? Nobody! 0 people. Just the person who wrote the article. He looks up his own article. Okay, now let's look at the opposite end of the internet chart. Over here on the right side, you have psychotic ravings. Okay, people say, well, obviously I'm not going to be influenced by any psychotic ravings because that's crazy people. But the only people who say this are people who have never had a schizophrenic in their family. Schizophrenics and many other categories of the mentally ill are ridiculously detail-oriented and wordy. They don't scrawl stuff on the wall with crayon. They write dense 50-page papers on the secret history of the Schick razor.
That actually sounds like something you would do.
Did I say I wasn't psychotic? Maybe I'm psychotic. I'm just explaining how the internet works.
I'm just saying, didn't you do the history of the Gillette razor?
No, I did the history of Gillette advertising, and I praised the brilliance of the Gillette Fusion 5 Pro Shield.
Oh, yeah, that's really different.
You shouldn't use the Gillette Fusion 5 Pro Shield, though. You should use the Gillette Venus Comfort Glide plus Olay Coconut.
That sounds sexist.
It is. It's a women's razor. So anyway, as you can see from the internet hoarding chart, between the two poles of peer-reviewed academic databases and psychotic ravings, you have all kinds of gradations of presumptive knowledge. I'm just going to touch on a few.
Do you really have to?
Do your research, Darcy. This is necessary. So, moving from the left, we have right about here stuff that's probably true most of the time. All right? Newspapers.com, Ancestry.com, you know, the database of the Saturday Evening Post or the New Yorker. You know, they probably got the box score right from Babe Ruth's last game when he hit the 3 homers. They might be a little shaky on what's going on in the southern part of the Soviet Union in 1932. They hire a lot of drunks at newspapers. You know, I started in newspapers. I knew highly functional drunks who routinely wrote articles at 3 in the morning. So, yeah. But Ben Bradley said newspapers are a rough draft of history. Okay, then over here on the right side, next to the closer to this, but next to the psychotic ravings, is professional bullshit. Now, this is smart people who are intentionally trying to screw with you. So that's where you have your Russian disinformation campaigns, you have the Chinese intelligence services, you have all those sites with names like the World Earth Global International News Service, which with a big name like that is probably one guy in his underwear. They're simply grabbing stuff off the AP wire and lying about it. Okay, back to the left. Here at about the 30% mark, we have well-meaning hipsters. These are people who had too many designer Lego sets when they were children, and so now they're building massive websites devoted to tracking down every single memo written by Gene Roddenberry in the 60s or unearthing an H.P. Lovecraft story that was published in a Swiss science fiction periodical in the 1930s. They all subscribed to Shudder, by the way. So, welcome, guys. All right, back to the right at the 30% mark, we have advocates, okay? Smart people determined to prove something they regard as essential to the continuation of the planet. Global warming advocates, Second Amendment advocates, Mars spacecraft advocates, pro-life, pro-choice, hardcore Republicans, hardcore Democrats, hardcore libertarians, people who read Atlas Shrugged and built their whole life around it. You know, this is people taking real facts, real news, real data, and putting it through the aha sieve. They're constantly saying, this proves it, you know, the it being whatever they set out to prove. Now, all this stuff in the middle, you know, bloggers, church newsletters, sermons, speeches, small town newspapers, Twitter wars, Instagram captures, embarrassing photos, doctored photos, YouTube videos. This is the biggest part of the internet. It's huge. And we have a word for it. Gossip. What is gossip? Gossip is two people talking about a third person who is not present. They may be saying good things about the person or bad things about the person. It doesn't matter. The fact that the person is not there makes it gossip. And it doesn't just apply to people, it applies to events. Now, we tend to call that rumor, but it has the same rules as gossip, meaning no rules at all. So here's my point.
You have an actual point.
Yes, and here it is, Darcy. When you type any word into Google, it's always going to land right here in the gossip fields. If you refine that word, it might move out here to the 30% fields. But if you want to make sure you get the results you want, just type in a question. Were the January 6th protesters criminals? It lands over here, you know? Were the January 6th protesters patriots? It lands over here, you know? Do your research indeed. You can make it land anywhere you want it to land. And one more thing about search results. Let's say you're looking up something totally non-controversial, like the brontosaurus, okay? You're in the 3rd grade, you're doing a report on the brontosaurus. But somebody in the psychotic ravings division of the internet back in 2016 wrote the following sentence. The penis of the brontosaurus was 45 times larger than the brontosaurus head. That sentence is totally untrue, but because it deals with the subject of a monstrously sized dick, which is always of interest in all nations and all ethnicities, it will migrate through constant repetition from psychotic ravings to professional bullshit to advocates into the great Middle Earth here of gossip. And once it gets there, it will be repeated and forwarded and copied and talked about so many times that it will be on the first page of any search result, resulting in the 3rd grader going to class and saying, the brontosaurus had a huge penis, and being sent to detention hall and reported to his parents. Anything shocking that sounds possibly true will indeed be repeated an infinite number of times on the internet. The trolls know this. The trolls know how to take untrue things that sound possible and enlarge them into memes and slogans. I deal with this all the time with people repeating stories about movies and directors and actors that are untrue, but they seem true because they've been repeated so often. So the trolls rule, do your research. Okay. Did I explain that?